another episode of Without Walls. My name is Buki, and if you're single, you're searching, you're waiting to be found, if you're playing this episode on your feed before, you know what I would advise? Pull up a chair, sit back, relax, because this is for you. I'll make a short break, after which I'll return my guest and we'll get right into it. Don't go away. Let me hit you with a fun fact. I have actually dreamt and imagined and fantasized about interviewing my guest for at least 7 years now. He probably doesn't even know this, but I've had this written somewhere in a notebook, and I'm so glad that he's here today. This is like a dream come true. Welcome, Pst Damilola Oluwatoyinbo.
Thank you for having me. It's amazing being here. Lovely set, great concept.
Thank you.
Show. I didn't know that till 7 years.
I'm telling you, I know, right? Because this dream has been, I've been pregnant with it for a long time, and thank you so much, thank you. So this is a dream come true. I'm glad that you're here. I never even thought, at some point I doubted that, can I even get him to come here? But here you are. I so much appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're the pastor of kings.
Yes.
And we're just saying behind the scenes that definition is long, and so I think it's better to just let you do justice to that.
All right, we'll do this. So I'm literally the pastor of kings. I believe my assignment is to raise kings, people to royalty in righteousness. But Kings is also an acronym, right, for Kingdom Influencers in Nations, Generations, and Systems. So KINGS. So
okay.
Kingdom Influencer is somebody who is constantly manifesting the love and light of God using his gifts and abilities in different spheres of human influence.
Wow. Okay, that's. I've attended one of your services before, and I think it gels. Like,
I'm happy you think so.
I think so. I definitely think so. Okay, so today's episode, I have to say, was inspired by a true life story, but not my own story. The story of a friend who is somewhere around here. She doesn't even know that I'm about to tell her story. I find that the divorce rate now is very high, and what is very alarming for me is the fact that even Christians are not immune. I see, a popular, I can't remember his name now, who has written books on waiting, on singlehood, came out to say that he was leaving his wife, and it's always heartbreaking. So what I've concluded is that some of these issues could have been avoided if we are taking care of some foundational issues.
Yeah.
So it means that in the first place, some people actually don't have any business getting married in the first place.
As hard as it may sound, it's actually true. I think that there's unfair pressure on single people. Like, the moment you're done with school, like, so when you get married, like, ladies, after your 21st birthday, so who's the guy, who's the baba, and all of that. So I know that most people desire to get married, and marriage is a beautiful thing, especially when you're doing it God's way, right? But I believe that there are some people who might not even desire to get married, but society has kept
conditioned them.
This condition and this pressure. So maybe if you're out there, you know that, really and truly from my heart, I don't want to get married. This could be liberation for you.
Okay, so I'll go back to that true life story that I was talking about. So when I was in the university, I have this friend who I can count on my fingers about 3 guys that came to meet her and said, God told you you're my wife. Interestingly, she did not end up.
The guys.
I was wondering. So interestingly, she didn't end up with any of those guys. Now she's happily married. Everything is going fine. And so this is my question: is it that God just predestines that, okay, you would have at least 3 options of a spouse, so if in case one doesn't work out, or is it that you are meant to get one person? There's one person prepared, or are there options? Because what happens?
This is a debate that I've heard about, or even seen people engage in different singles meetings, churches, and all of that. I'm not going to say a yes or a no, but I'm going to paint a few scenarios for you.
Are you trying to stay safe?
No, I'm trying to be realistic, and at the same time without compromising the truth of God's word. It's just like when some people tell you that, okay, since God knows everybody that is going to go to heaven, doesn't mean he has destined someone to go to hell. Now, this kind of questions are not really
that conversation for.
Right. So, but let's look at it this way. If you're one of those who believe that there's just one person that I'm supposed to get married to, what happens if that person dies, God forbid, in an accident or maybe mortality issues? The person dies right after childbirth. Are you going to be like, okay, that means I was never destined to get married? But maybe you want to get married. There's so much of nurturing on the inside of you, or to be a mother, or to be a wife. What happens to you? You know, so that's why I don't subscribe to the persuasion that is only one person that you're ordained to marry. But having said that, I think that there's possibly just one kind of person you're supposed to get married to. What does that mean? The combination of their identity, personality, gifts, orientation, cultural backgrounds, and experiences. And maybe within that pool, you might find 3 to 5 individuals that could
fit into that.
Box. That's what I think. So I don't think it has to be like this one person. So there's a story in the book of Jeremiah where it talks about how the prophet was instructed by God to go down to the potter's house for a learning experience. And when he gets to the potter's house, the potter is making a vessel, and the vessel gets marred in his hands, right? In God's hands, probably metaphorically speaking. And the potter doesn't throw that vessel away, but it molds the vessel into a different entity, or rather claim to a different vessel. So I think that there are certain people that you meet, and you're like, this person doesn't look like the part, but the person can be molded, you know, into the kind of person that you get married to, and you still have a blissful marriage, you have a fulfilling experience, you raise godly children, you feel your life's purpose. So that's my persuasion. I don't think like, some people might disagree, but since you asked for my persuasion, I don't think it's just one person, or otherwise that's the end of it. Like when Saul failed, God raised David, right?
David, yes.
Elijah said that I'm the only prophet left. God said, you don't know what you're talking about. There's 7,000 other people. So if we're to look at all those biblical references, I think it's safe to conclude that God will never allow somebody to remain perpetually single just because the person they're supposed to get married to turned out being maybe an idol worshiper or something.
Okay, so maybe there's a Christian sister out there, a guy has come to meet you to say, okay, God said you're my husband, but I don't like you. So if I say no, it's okay because there's a backup somewhere.
Okay. I see where you're going with this. I set up.
No, I mean, I'm just trying to.
But it's a good one because I know there are people who are watching from different persuasions, and we need to entertain all of that. So, this is what I would say. If a guy comes to you and says, God says you're my husband, or rather you're my wife in this case, the God who spoke to you can also speak to me. Why would God drop my message in your DM?
Okay.
I need to have some kind of assurance that you're God's child, right? And so God speaks to you. It's like, God is your dad, God is my dad. So daddy can tell me to, or at least begin to nudge me in that direction. Now, sometimes when certain people say, God said, they're trying to manipulate people sometimes. Sometimes it's their mind, you know, the idols of their hearts that are speaking to them. You know, Israel, they cried to God and said, give us meat, give us meat. And God actually gave them that eventually, but with leanness of soul, because it's the blessing of God that makes rich and adds no sorrow. The blessing of man may make somewhat rich, but it's going to add sorrow, right? So if God is saying there has to be peace, there has to be resonance, there has to be, even if you don't like the person initially, like you don't go like, hey, this is my guy. If it's God that is in it and you're open to the Holy Spirit, He begins to work in your heart. And so if you're that sister and somebody has come to say to you, God said, don't shut it down. You can take out some time, pray, maybe study, look at the person and say, maybe some of my personal preferences are not the things that are most pronounced in his life. But if I'm able to let go of some of those things, which in the grand scheme sometimes are not the biggest things. Like some people say, the guy must be 6'6". Are you marrying a basketballer, right? Like, be like, the woman must be able to pound yam. If she can pound yam, maybe
to marry a chef.
Right. So there's certain things that we hold dear initially, that in the grand scheme, they don't really matter. I think the fundamentals are identity, faith, spirituality, life assignment, mission, and purpose. And of course, there needs to be, especially for men, you need to find the person quite attractive, especially for men. Women too, I guess. But I know for men, it's quite a big deal.
Okay, so then how do you separate emotion from divine guidance? Because I think that if this DM thing, if there's too much emotion and I just don't like the guy, it can scramble the network.
You're right.
And the DM will not grow. So how do you separate the two? Like, okay, my emotions here, God's guidance here, and I need to be able to get the most important one, which is
Great question.
guidance.
Great question. We need in this generation because I think the main part is so sentimental these days. The way it happens in this area where maybe God is guiding and you don't like the person. It also happens in a case where God is not guiding, but you have
like the person.
As people say, you've lambano, that means to
The sister.
fully. You have claimed, you have written affirmations, and all of that. So I think that the very first thing I want to advise is, especially a lot of young people and millennials, in fact, the moment you begin to get a sense that there's some kind of attraction, and people live in denial sometimes. You're already smitten before you claim. In fact, your friends will be teasing you and say, "You like that guy?" It's my brother, friends. Like you want to marry an enemy. But when you begin to sense that, chemistry, and that thing, you know this scientific timeline of how things happen, chemistry, and people become physical, so physics, then biology.
Oh, okay. It's science. Integrated.
Then further mathematics
when
things get complicated. but the more you begin to sense the chemistry, and chemistry is oftentimes an indication that there's resonance. Chemistry is not an indication that that's your partner. Chemistry is an indication that, maybe you have shared values, shared experiences, or you have a healthy or wholesome appreciation for the person. That could either degenerate into infatuation or lust if it's unguided, or graduate into creating value together in business or working on a project, or maybe sometimes marriage. It may not lead to marriage, and a lot of people just misinterpret that. I'm feeling.
We're on the same page.
They start finding all the similarities. Like I wore red, he wore wine. That's God speaking. Maybe not. So once you start feeling that, what I advise people to do is expose that to trusted friends, counselors, spiritual mentors, advisors. The reason that's important is they're not emotionally invested in it. So they can act as umpires to safeguard.
Their view is not blurred.
Their view is not blurred. They can see clearly. So whilst you're busy there just getting slain in the spirit of desire, right? They can say, that guy, the way he was speaking to you that day, I'm not sure that's cool. He's not very proud of you. Or that guy, you're very, very finicky, but the way the guy was picking his nose and things that pulled out of his nose. I'm sorry, I'm grossing out. But these are things that when you're blinded by hormones, you don't see them. And then you get into the relationship, you're committed, and then complications, and you're like, God, I thought you said. So expose that. Accountability is key in making judgment. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Right. So that's one. I think the other thing is know that you can be flawed. You can make mistakes. And so give yourself the opportunity of saying, maybe what I'm thinking right now is not it. I do a lot of critical thinking in terms of judging my best decisions. So if I feel like this is my best decision, I'm still going to critique it personally and then get people in my space to speak to it. So if you can do that, the number 3 thing I recommend is, can you pray and possibly fast? Excuse me. Why is that important? When you fast, when you pray, you silence the voice of the flesh and the voice of the emotions. You subdue the basal influences of the human nature, and then you allow yourself to hear clearly. But all of these things need to be done early in that equation. The more you begin to feel like there's some kind of attraction, you want to do it, because what happens sometimes is people get so deeply invested. You start pounding yam for him. You started grinding pepper using olota. You know olota?
Yes, the traditional, not blender.
Not blender, right? You've got partners together. He's introduced you to his mother. His mother has already said, "My daughter, my wife." Pressure level has broken the barometer. so do it early and have accountability partners, people in your life, mentors that can tell you the truth, give you honest feedback, and be willing to consider the possibility of you being wrong.
Okay, so I'm wondering, in choosing a partner as a believer, Should anything else matter apart from the fact that this person is born again, God-fearing, and born again, God-fearing? Shouldn't that be enough to make it work?
Oh no, it's not enough.
Okay.
And I'll give it from a biblical premise. You know, God has different assignments for different people. Moses cannot do the work of Paul. Paul cannot even do the work of John. John is John the Beloved. He has to reveal the hearts and the identity of Christ in a way that is endearing and engaging and easy to consume. The personhood of Christ has to be displayed through someone like John, who has empathy and who speaks regular language. But for the work that Paul needs to do, he's got to be rugged. He's breaking the ground. He's shattering paganism. He's setting churches in order. So that personality cannot be very mellow and all of that's God. Both of them are called of God. There's the John and the Paul, or for Johanna and Pauline. No, Pauline as the case may be, right? So similarly, the fact that two people are children of God does not mean that they can work in the same marriage, or that they have the mental composition, the environmental composition, the skill sets, gifts, abilities, background, doctrinal persuasions, theological outlook, psychological framework. There's so many things that come into play when it comes to interpersonal engagements and relationships. So that's not enough. I could also use Paul and Peter. Paul is sent to the Gentiles. He's got to be sophisticated in knowledge. He's got to be intellectual. He has to be able to debate. He has to be able to speak before kings. Peter, on the other hand, does not need that degree of intellectualism, but he needs to know enough of the rabbinical order of the Torah and all of that. So applying that to relationships, there's some women, or let me use women first, there's some women who can pray in tongues. Oh my God, when they pray in tongues, you will see fire. What? They can't represent the interest of that husband in certain circles. And so they might be better suited, even though everybody can grow and improve, but they might be better suited to marry somebody else who does not have a lot of calling or a great calling to the public space or certain environments that will require certain competences that is super spiritual, tongues blasting, angel invoking, demons provoking woman lacks, right? Vice versa, for some people, the man might require or might be the kind of person that doesn't like the lights and doesn't want his wife in the lights. And then the woman has a calling that's going to put him, you know, in the visible light. And if they get together without proper understanding, there will be clashes in that kind of relationship. So yeah, there are things you need to ask: intellectual compatibility, social compatibility. Health is a big deal.
Genocide. Like, we can't faith it.
Yeah.
We can't.
If you're going to faith it before you get married. The God that will change the blood group after marriage, let him do it. Now, let me just put this out there. I'm not saying that you can exercise faith, but I'm saying that the God of faith is the God of wisdom. You know, Christ made unto us the wisdom and the power of God. So there are certain things that people want to use power for that God already provided wisdom for. Christ is power, Christ is wisdom. So if Christ is wisdom and Christ is power, let me also apply the wisdom of Christ. So I believe that there are cases in which God will allow two people who are AS and AS to get married, or some other genotype makeup to get married, and then either they get healed or maybe they don't get healed, but they just don't have babies that are SS. There are cases like that. And if you are fully persuaded, don't let this young pastor be the person that will tell you. But if I'm counseling you, or my daughter or my son, I'll say, you know what, you pull up yourself.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. That's yeah, because when you see the pain that goes into it,
it's really not worth it, right?